Hey everybody, my name is Doug Keeling, and today we're going to talk about batch editing a group of photos. So if you go out and do a photo shoot or whatever, if you have a whole bunch of photos in a folder, you might want to upload those to a website or email them to somebody. And if you're using a modern camera these days, the file sizes can be massive. And even in this folder that I have here for demo purposes, the files really aren't that awful big compared to what they could be. But you do have a couple here. Here's one that's 10.6 megabytes. Even 4 megabytes can be hard to send depending on what kind of email program a person has, and that takes up a lot of space on your web server. So right now, if you're just looking at this total folder of, I think there's 17 images in here, we've got 68 megabytes. That's a lot of space for some images, and the images that are in here are basically full size. It's more quality than the average person really needs when they're just going to be looking at these photos online, even if you're uploading them to Facebook or wherever. This is just way more image quality than you actually need. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Now, along the way, I might decide that, based on however my mood is or whatever I want to do, that I want to apply some filters or some actions to these. If you've never used Photoshop actions, they're pretty cool. You can record your own, so if you always knew that you were going to add more contrast or apply some kind of a filter or whatever, you actually can record those actions and then do them over and over and over again for each photo and not have to open up each photo and apply that and so on and so forth. In this case, I've downloaded some actions, and I'll have a link to this in the description. These are just some kind of vintage, old school actions, and I'm just going to go ahead and play one of these actions and you'll see what it does. Okay, so it gave me a folder. That was real time, just took a second, and we've got all of these extra layers that it added for us in a group called Vintage Morning. That's the name of the action, and you can just see what it does here if we compare the after with the before, after, before, after. So you get the gist here. It just kind of ages the photo for us. So that's what I want to do, and I want to do that on all of those photos. Let's go ahead and close that out, and I'm not going to save this one the way it is. Then I'm going to go back into Photoshop. Then I'm going to go down to Scripts and Image Processor. And we have basically just 4 steps here. We're going to select the images we want to process, so we would choose the folder that we want. And I want to make sure I'm in the 42816 folder. The next thing we're going to do is choose where these are going to be saved. So if you want to, you can have them saved in the same location, or you can choose a new folder. I'm going to leave them in the same location because Photoshop is smart enough to realize that for each file type, which we'll get to next, is going to create a separate folder within the current location. So you don't have to be worried about Photoshop erasing or overwriting your current images. Alright, so I'm just going to save these as a JPEG, and the quality of them can be from 1 to 12. I'm going to leave it at 10 because that's a pretty good size for the web. And then we have an option here to resize to fit. What this is basically going to do is it's going to analyze each photo, and if it's bigger or smaller or whatever the size may be, it's going to limit it to a maximum of 1400 pixels wide by 1400 pixels high. I might even decrease the size of that a little bit, so let's make it 1200 wide by 1200, and so it's not going to let anything be larger or smaller than that. All your dimensions are going to be the same. It's not going to crop anything. It's just going to make sure that the photos fit within that specified square, in this case, that I've defined. After that, go down to Preferences, and you can click on Run Action or turn it off, either way. And you'll see the folder, the different folders for the actions. The default Photoshop actions are in there, and this one that I just installed. And then we have all of the effects that are within that folder. And this one is that Vintage Morning that I wanted to use. Looks like everything's good to go, so now I'm going to click Run, and you'll see what it does here. All of these photos, by the way, come from Unsplash.com. Unsplash is an awesome resource. I can't speak highly enough of that, where people from all over the world upload photos that are free to use and share and distribute and remix and basically do whatever you want with them, and the quality is just fantastic. So, if you haven't been to Unsplash.com, definitely do that. That's a resource in and of itself. So now let's go ahead and check out our folder and see what we have. So you can see our folders there, and we have this new JPEG folder, and it's 6.3 megabytes. Let's go in there and let's just preview a couple of these. So you see everything has that effect applied to it that kind of looks aged. And if you want to compare, let's just pick one of these that we can look at a little more side by side. So here's our original. Here's the new one that's kind of washed out and aged more. You can see how that works. And if you just want to compare things a little bit, let's just move this JPEG folder out, and we'll call this, resized or something like that. And if we compare these two, our original folder was 68.3 megs. The resized folder, everything that we have here is only 6.3 megs, and you could have even taken it smaller than that. Even at that size of 1200 pixels square, these photos are still pretty good quality, so you could even take the quality down a little bit if you wanted to save some space. So that's how you resize photos quickly. One other thing that I'll mention is, and this is more of a Mac tip than a Photoshop tip. I'm sure there's probably a way to do it in Windows too. But if you organize your photos into folders, that's great. But you still are going to end up with a whole bunch of photos that have these random names that you really can't understand, like, image whatever number. So what you can do, either before or after, or just when you're organizing your photos in general, say that you were at a wedding and you had taken these, and even though they might be in a wedding folder, if that image ever gets moved out, it's very hard to, without opening each photo, to know what it is, or preview them all. In any case, it's best to just go ahead and rename them while you're at it. And if you select all of the photos you want to rename, you right-click on them in the Mac, and go down to rename, you'll see that when you have more than one item selected, we have rename 17 items. How does that work? Well, it's pretty cool. You can either do something random like number them, and then we're going to start at 0001, or I guess it'll put the zeros in there for us. So let's rename those. Now you can see that we can always tell, even if these get moved out, that these photos are from that specific wedding. You could even add the date to it. There are a whole bunch of ways that you can rename these using this tool. So let's go back and try that again. Instead of format, let's just add text. So let's go up to, and you can see we have a preview here. Maybe you have various versions of this photo, and you want to add text after the name, and maybe you have the originals in one folder, and then you just want to also add something after it that says, hey, I've processed this particular image. So if you wanted to do something like _P after that and rename them all. That way, if you have multiple images in the exact same location, you might have the same exact image number, but you can have that P after it, and that means, processed. Whatever your system is, the point is it's very easy with these renaming features that the Mac provides for you to keep your photos organized. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you, and if you did enjoy it, please click that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Check out my website, dougkeeling.com. I'm also on Facebook, Keeling Design and Media. And other than that, I'll catch you on the next video.